Let's explore the best techniques for managing social anxiety disorder. This evening's lesson is drawn from a good-hearted question found on Reddit. The individual wrote, "I have bad social anxiety and am already 25 years old. Whoopsie. Can meditation help me with this torture?" The individual continues, "Did meditation improve your anxiety? How can I force myself to face social situations? My voice is low and people barely hear me. I feel like I have the I feel like I'm a 25-year-old body with the brain of a 10-year-old boy." I'm sure he doesn't mean in a jar. I'm sure he means between his ears. I tried meditation several years ago, but couldn't continue because of a seeming absence of positive results. Is there any research where it is verified meditation can improve social anxiety? Share your experiences too. So, first off, right off the bat, bravo. The person who wrote this, I applaud your enthusiasm and your vulnerability, and you weren't trying to, protect your self-esteem. You were just putting it out there. And to you, I send a Yoda high five. Well done, you. So, let's begin with broad brushstrokes. Starting with anxiety and the brute force method. Contrary to what we were taught 20 years ago or 50 years ago, no less 100 years ago, anxiety is not a psychological disorder. It is typically a physiological disorder with psychological symptoms. And there's a huge difference. If that's the case, then you cannot successfully or therapeutically, no less sustainably, brute force your way through it. There was a wonderful, what's it called? A Tom Cruise movie that came out in the late 80s, early 90s called Born on the 4th of July. And in it, there was a Vietnam veteran with lower spinal damage who tried to brute force his way through recovery. And he was dragging his paralytic lower body as he was just trying to outuse his upper torso and all these apparatus. And he was able to drag himself through the physical therapy center, but he wasn't able to use his legs. So no amount of motivation or brute force on his part could make his lower body work the way he wanted it to. So if most of us raised in patriarchal culture, most of us who've been exposed to inspirational movies or the diatribes of coaches or special forces guys have been spoon-fed this line that if you just gut your way through, you can accomplish anything. No, you can't. There have been special forces guys who think they are natural-born motivational speakers, and they just motivate their way through an athletic event that they are not equipped to practice, and they've maimed themselves for life. I'm thinking about one guy, a special forces guy who ran, I think it was the LA Marathon, and instead of listening to his body's messages of, hey, there's an injury here, he quote-unquote powered through it and turned what should have been a minor injury into a debilitating lifelong condition. So no, we cannot brute force our way through social anxiety. Contrary to what you and I might have been taught growing up. Good evening, Kevin. To you, I send such a psychic hug. To you and Jay and let's see. your two cats, Teddy and Rue. Okay, so get back to it. So my friend who wrote this question, there is more than one neurotype. Ask an anthropologist, there will tell you one of the reasons humans are such a successful species is that within any tribe or pack, there was more than one neural type at play. Just as in a factory, you don't expect the bookkeeping department at General Motors to jump on the assembly line or the assembly line worker to go into the drafting room. You allow for specialization of labor. Likewise, in the human family, there are different neurotypes that are best suited for different tasks, and that is remarkably useful to our success as a species. However, just as it's a mistake to try to shove a square peg in a round hole, to try to teach someone to treat someone who's neurodivergent as if they were neurotypical will always end badly, regardless of how much guilt or self-loathing you mix into the cake. So as I touched upon momentarily, social anxiety is less psychological and more physiological, and it doesn't occur in a vacuum. Ask a physicist, and they will tell you there is no such thing as independence. Everything affects other things and is affected by other things. A very popular term used in contemporary medicine is comorbidity. And so if someone is presenting with the classical symptoms of social anxiety, there is a very big probability that there are other factors in play, other factors that are ignored at our peril. I do not say this to say, you suck, life sucks, sad to be you, just give up. No, I'm saying you have to work with professionals who can help you really put together a strategy that meets all your needs. I think it was an East Indian physician who wrote a book maybe 30 years ago titled The Body's Many Cries for Water. Or perhaps its tagline was, "You're not sick, you're thirsty." Similarly, our most superficial symptoms are often our body's cries, metaphorically speaking, for unmet needs going on within the central nervous system and peripheral body. Needs that, if met, can ensure a fulfilling, productive life. Needs that, if ignored, will end in tears. So what I recommend is to work with a psychologist or a psychiatrist who not only specializes in social anxiety disorder, but who also specializes in its comorbidities, such as, but not limited to, ADHD, autism, PTSD, CPTSD, which shares many of the initials but is kind of a different beast, and the like. We live in an age of health maintenance organizations, which are sadly more excited about turning a profit than serving humanity. And a lot of these organizations reward for medical gaslighting. But that does more harm than good. It might be very good for a corporate entity's bottom line. It's terrible for humanity. And over the last 10 or so years, a lot of people who've been relegated to the sidelines, told that the problems are psychological or they should take some psychotropic drugs, have learned that their symptoms are the evidence of a larger order disorder that, when met, can help them cope with their superficial symptoms more effectively. Sigmund Freud was a physician. So his initial approach to psychiatry was to use the disease model, where there's a disease with a set of symptoms that have a discrete set of causes that, when addressed, will instantly heal the disorder. Now, that might work with sepsis or pneumonia or gout, but that doesn't always work with larger order issues with far-reaching psychiatric symptoms such as social anxiety disorder. One of the more current trends in leading edge or cutting edge psychology is less about transformation of symptoms and more about management of symptoms and acceptance of symptoms. When I first began studying Buddhism many decades ago, I wanted magic with a K. I wanted to be able to do all this spooky Buddhist voodoo shit and make my life just the way I wanted. And like a cat with his head stuck in a bag of Doritos, I had my head stuck in a great big box of preconceptions. And so I had to spend many years and a lot of effort and not a little bit amount of tears trying to work my way out of those preconceptions. Some forms of meditation will make anxiety worse. Some will help us to cope with social anxiety. And some can go a long way to mitigating the symptoms. But meditation, even when done correctly, is not a panacea. And it will not necessarily heal the physiological disorders that are creating the set of psychological symptoms. That's really, really important. Now, that's an inconvenient answer, and I apologize for that. But sometimes inconvenience is more convenient than a reassuring fable, to reference our pal, the late Carl Sagan. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of meditation, there's a lot of benefit from applying the elements of lifestyle medicine. A proponent of that is Dr. Michael Greger. He has a free YouTube channel called I forgot what it's called. nutritionfacts.org. Everything he does is free. He gives all his information out there for free, both in blog format or video format. And if you want to, he puts out books, but he doesn't squirrel away information behind a paywall. All his information out there is available for general consumption, which is beautiful. So the elements of lifestyle medicine can help us to manage the symptoms of social anxiety. Banal things like getting enough sleep, sunshine, fresh air, exercise, consuming enough fruits, vegetables, seasonings, herbs, mushrooms, seeds, nuts, legumes, lentils, pulses, tubers, grains, and the like. Eating a whole food, plant-based diet can help. Once again, it's not a panacea. You can't throw brown rice at a broken leg and expect it to instantly heal. But it can support the process, which is useful. We live in an era now where humans are consuming foodstuffs that we have not evolved to thrive upon. We are living in an era where organizations, government organizations that were supposed to be consumer advocates, have become industry advocates, have become business aggregates. Or to put it to borrow a phrase from our friend Mark Twain, America has the best government money can buy. Consequently, a lot of the foodstuffs sold in America will not be sold in the European Union because they recognize it as toxic non-foodstuffs. When the Subway still sells stuff that smell like bread and look like bread, but are more like rubber than bread in laboratory tests, that is a symptom of a larger order problem. So let's continue. Now let us turn our attention to meditation. Forgive me for using the hackneyed cliche, but not all that glitters is gold. Sturgeon's Law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks, but not in the fun, tingly way. That means 90% of meditation books are worthless or worse. 90% of meditation teachers are worthless or terrible or harmful. And it's tough. It can be difficult to find resources that are really beneficial. One of the things that cuts through the malarkey of preconception and patriarchy is neuroscience. So I'd like to approach meditation through the lens of neuroscience right now. I'm going to start with some bad news and then go to some good news. Bad news. Most of us are taught that mindfulness is concentration and that that mindfulness is active concentration and that meditation is active analysis. Well, if we do that, if we sincerely, enthusiastically do that, the only way we can do that is to utilize specific neurological organelles such as the medial prefrontal cortex or the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. Using our prefrontal cortex for tasks it has not evolved to do in the short term lights up our amygdala. And this is darkly ironic. By lighting up our amygdala is the seat of both aggression and anxiety. And so the dark irony is that when we try to perform active concentration or active analysis in the name of dampening our anxiety, we actually exacerbate it, which is an irony worthy of O. Henry. There's even more bad news. If we persist in overusing and exhausting our prefrontal cortex, we will begin to present with the symptoms of depression. And so how darkly ironic it is when people say, I'd like to treat my annoyance, anxiety, and sadness by using a method that's actually going to replace those things with full-blown rage, terror, and despair. No thank you. No thank you. No thank you. But now here's some good news. There are discrete organelles within our central nervous system that can help. And I'd like to explore that with you right now. Every time we inhale, let's talk about mindfulness. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we are wired to automatically access our sympathetic nervous system. Where is it located? In the middle third of our spinal cord, of all places. How bizarre is that? This bad boy has not evolved to support either extreme of mind blanking or active concentration. What has this thing evolved to do? It's evolved to support our perception, help us to perceive vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. And this is pretty weird. Check this out. There's two distinct worldviews. One worldview is espoused by the Buddha, and the other is espoused by the Buddha's wicked cousin. One is called yin, or spiritual matriarchy, and the other is called yang, or spiritual patriarchy. So about 90% of humanity is really enthusiastic to be rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. These are not the people who are going to teach you how to perceive vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. These are the people who are going to teach you to be rigid and increase your fear and indulge your controlling tendencies and really get in there and indulge your tendencies for to actively concentrate. But it's not what the Buddha taught. The Buddha taught us to be flexible, loving, rational, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. Specifically, to be flexible and laid back and loving. So, every time we inhale, we access the neurological mechanism that is specifically evolved to help us notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. We call this mindfulness. We have evolved to notice all manner of things. We have evolved to notice sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. We have also evolved to notice emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. This can seem overwhelming. This can be overwhelming. Fortunately, there's meditation. Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we access our parasympathetic nervous system, found in the lower third and upper third of our spinal cord, including, and I have trouble pronouncing this, so bear with me, the reticular, I have problems with that vowel, reticular activation system, our brainstem. So what does this bad boy evolve to do? It's evolved to support our physical relaxation and our mental release. So this is wild. Every time we inhale, we are wired to notice. Every time we exhale, we are wired to release. Now you might say, well, Mr. Fancy Pants, if that's true, then why do I need to sit cross-legged on the floor looking like a dim bulb? Looking like a cat staring at a wall. Why do I got to do that? And here's why. Our brain. There's a term, perhaps you've heard it, over-engineered. Natural selection is guilty of over-engineering our brain. And sometimes subtlety and nuance is lost. Our brain kind of acts like Urkel. Good-hearted, clever, but really, really klutzy. But here's the good news. If we ask our brain to silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, it'll begin effortlessly cooperating with our sympathetic nervous system, and thus practicing mindfulness. And if during our exhalation we silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease, our brain starts cooperating with our parasympathetic nervous system, and we start releasing. And that's meditation. These two facets of our autonomic nervous system have evolved to help us to cope with what Shakespeare referred to as the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. The shitty things in life. And while proponents of CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy will say, well, just, think your way out of what you feel. No, the tests are in. If you try thinking your way out of what you feel, it's kind of like the old saw. Tell me if you've heard this one before. Do not try to teach the pig to sing. It'll waste your time and annoy the pig. Similarly, do not try to talk yourself out of what you feel. It will exhaust your prefrontal cortex and have no bearing at all in the long term on your limbic system. So, working with our sympathetic nervous system, working with our parasympathetic nervous system will help us to process and release. But wait, there's more. Sadly, it's not really shown in this illustration, but right around here, there is a bad boy called the, right around here, there is the hippocampus. And hippocampus kind of acts like a doorman at a dance club with a clipboard. And if your name isn't on the clipboard, you ain't getting in, no matter how many C notes you stuff in his pocket. Similarly, trauma is an event that has been failed to stored in long-term memory. Therefore, the body treats it as a present moment experience. When someone has the classic symptoms of PTSD or CPTSD, they experience the past in the present, not because of psychology, but because of physiology, because the file hasn't been stored in the filing cabinet. It's been thrown all over, hither and yon throughout the office. But did you know that brisk walking meditation can almost massage our amygdala and our hippocampus and help our brains get more and more efficient at processing past trauma and begin to file it away in long-term memory of the hippocampus, which is awesome. So here's the cool thing. You can walk around your block briskly. You can do it once every 12 hours. As you walk around the block briskly, as you inhale, you can silently and mentally recite this. As you exhale, you can silently and mentally recite ease. And as you do, different things will come up. You'll perceive sight, sound, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. You'll begin to perceive emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. You will perceive the external and the internal, the physical and the mental, the pleasurable and the painful, the interesting and the boring, the glorious and the grotesque. But within the safety of brisk walking and your key words of this and ease, you will notice you're able to process it. In time, you can build your stamina and be able to walk around the block for 20 minutes or 40 minutes or even 60 minutes. And not only is it great for your health, it will help your body get better and better and better at dealing with anxiety and some of the triggers of anxiety. Now, once again, this is not a panacea. This is part of a package deal. Meditation is no substitute for eating right, or breathing, or drinking water, or getting sleep. It's no substitute for working with fully qualified healthcare professionals who specialize in not only diagnosing the overarching causes of your social anxiety disorder, but in also treating them. And I'd like to go back for a second. There's a phrase you use that I've used myself, and that's not uncommon. Those who are described as neurodivergent take longer to mature. The typical prefrontal cortex, or I should say the prefrontal cortex of a neurotypical completes its development in the early 20s. For someone who's not neurodivergent, it often takes an additional decade for that to happen. That's not because they're lazy. It's not because they're stupid. It's not because they're unspiritual. It's because of the way they are wired. For instance, and I'm not diagnosing you, I'm not remotely qualified, and I don't have enough information at all, but here's just an example. So autism is a pruning disorder. As we develop, our brain develops all these neural pathways, and it's supposed to trim them back like a gardener in a topiary garden. But if it doesn't, you wind up with a big old, with an uncommonly neurologically complex brain that's going to take longer for the body to deal with. So for instance, the length of time it takes to bake one potato in one oven is shorter than the length of time it takes to bake 20 potatoes in the same oven at the same time. I learned that the hard way in college when I tried batch cooking. I wound up with all these semi-raw potatoes. Because not all brains are the same, and we don't all have the same neurotype. Some brains take longer to develop than other brains. Some prefrontal cortices take longer to develop than other brains. And when the prefrontal cortices are overworked, the amygdala, the seat of anxiety, really fires up. That anxiety is not the problem, it's the symptom of a problem. That's really important. You can't hypnosis or self-talk your way out of the causes behind the symptoms. That's super, super important. So I hope you found this helpful. And I guess there's one more thing I'd like to hit on. And it's two fringe benefits. The first fringe benefit is this. The more time we sit, either in sitting meditation or in walking meditation, the more time we spend perceiving and releasing in harmony with our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, the less our amygdala will light up. And the more this thing will light up. This thing that looks like a pink catcher's mitt. This thing known as the anterior cingulate gyrus that functions as the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy and compassion and love. This is why the Dzogchen Lamas of Tibet have insisted that the highest love is spontaneous and uncontrived. That's the first fringe benefit. Here's the second. Consider, if you will, this piece of art. Notice this gal who looks like she's the color of a cumulus cloud. Behold how she appears to be actively sporting in tantric union. This reminds us that spontaneity trumps contrivance. Consider her partner, the color of the azure sky, who appears to be passively savoring the same tantric union. This reminds us that there are many flavors of spontaneity. And it is the centered spontaneity that is the most beneficial for us. For instance, scattered spontaneity can be likened to, downing 3 espressos in 30 minutes. That'll get you pretty agitated. The absence of spontaneity would be contrivance, and between those two, in the middle ground, you have centered spontaneity, when our choices and our utterances and our deeds flow with the effortless effort of love's centered spontaneity, then our life can be more like a real or imagined Buddha's, a real or imagined paradise, or Pure Land, or if you prefer Sanskrit, Vati. Centered spontaneity makes life better. Centered spontaneity is based on love. Love is based upon the proper functioning of our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. Remember, this lights up or this lights up. We're in fear or we're in love. We're in yang or we're in yin. We are rigid or we are flexible. We are controlling or we are laid back. We are elitist or we are egalitarian. We are competitive or we are cooperative. I want to live from this area of my brain. How about you? I do look forward to practicing with you after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme, Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying each sect of Taoism and Hinduism and Buddhism so that you wouldn't have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the deep sea wrong button. Which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. This evening, I'd like very much to practice the latest iteration of Kind Gaze's Easy Meditation. We're going to play with a whole palette of techniques to make this just as pleasurable and sustainable as possible. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist chanting, Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or how to apply them, please type your question in great detail in the chat window. Let us bring the crown of our head into the path of bliss and release. This is known by many fancy names like Completion Stage Tantra, Bindu Mahamudra, Anu Yoga, or Tikle's Nadi Prana Bindu, or simply Channels, Winds, and Drops. Our recitation is going to be highly metaphoric. Please chant with me. Place your hands in the puckered palm position overhead. May Lama come to this crown, may Lama come to this crown. May Lama come to this crown, may Lama come to this crown. May Lama come to this crown, may Lama come to this crown. And that's it. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Now let us bring whatever we spontaneously notice into the path of awareness and release, which is known by many names, including Dzogchen, Great Completion Stage, Sutra Mahamudra, Ati Yoga, Mahasandhi, Chan, Proto-Zen, and Trekcho's slice through the duality of dread and desire. And this is just what we played with during class. As we breathe in, we can silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this, and as we exhale, we can silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease. No, this is not deep breathing. We're not choosing how rapid or how deep to breathe. We're letting our medulla oblongata take care of the breathing for us, just like it's done all our life. We're just treating our breath. Gesundheit. We're just treating our breath the way a piano student treats their metronome. Every time we breathe in, we are wired to perceive vulnerably, which is symbolized by the nudity of Samantabhadra, Samantabhadri, Karmamudra. Every time we exhale, every time we relax into our exhalation, whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation could feel less solid, could feel less permanent, could feel less graspable, could feel less defining. Metaphorically, we could describe it this way. As we or I should say, figuratively, we could describe it as we relax into our exhalation, whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation could feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void, like the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although is tantalizing to the eye, is intangible to the hand. This is why Kuntu Zangpo, Kuntu Zangmo, Yabium are depicted as translucent and non-graspable as a rainbow. Now let us bring the 4 bases of mindfulness into the practice of love and release. This is known by many names, including generation or creation stage tantra, tantra mahamudra, mahayoga, or Tokal's leap over the confusion of jealousy and pride. Please chant with me. Rather than indulge or controlling tendencies with all follies of active visualization, emotion, magic, and belief, we could just recite these kind words in harmony with our breathing and allow our subconscious to do the heavy lifting. Let us sidestep the rigidity that confuses metaphors for statements literal, and relax into the flexibility that savors the chance explaining metaphors as similes. I invoke the wish of ending Manu that serves as a metaphor of love, and the purifying Pemi Lotus as a metaphor of letting go. Let's try that again. I invoke the wish of healing Manu that serves as a metaphor of love, and the Pemi Lotus of purity serving as a metaphor of letting go, with whom I supplicate may love and letting go be mastered by all. So what we're going to do right now is play with a loving intention. May all minds of all beings know be as peacefully enlightened as the mind of a real or imagined Buddha symbolized by Yatikle, one suitable seed or Bisha mantra. So now we're going to take all these words, we condense them into just 6 syllables that we're going to recite silently, mentally, and passively as we inhale. As we exhale, we're going to physically relax as best we can while striving to chant this 6-syllable mantra 8 times per breath. And please, if this is your first time, please give yourself permission to have a learning curve. Om mani mimi yung mani mimi yung 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 Mani mimi yung mani mimi yung Oh 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 mani mimi yung mani Om Mani Mimi Yung, Om Mani Mimi Yung, Om Mani Mimi Yung, Om Mani Mimi Yung, Om Mani Mimi Yung. May all relationships or speech of all beings so be as joyfully loving as a real or imagined Buddhist communication symbolized by the six syllable mantra. Om Mani Mimi Yung, 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 Om Mani Mimi Yung. Om Mani Mimi Yung, 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 Om Mani Mimi Yung. Om Mani Mimi Yung, 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 Om Mani Mimi Yung. Om Mani Mimi Yung, 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 Om Mani Mimi Yung. May all bodies or forms of all beings know and endure the beautiful Hasin and Buddha statuary, depicting the blissful body of a real or imagined Devi or Yadama, an archetype of enlightenment such as should raising. Om Mani Mimi Yung, 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 Om Mani Mimi Yung. Om Mani Mimi Yung, 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 Om Mani Mimi Yung. Om Mani Mimi Yung, 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 Om Mani Mimi Yung. Om Mani Mimi Yung, 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 Om Mani Mimi Yung. May all circumstances or loss of all beings know have the good fortune or boon, as a Buddha's real or imagined paradise, pure land or Vanti. Om Mani Mimi Yung, 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 Om Mani Mimi Yung. Om Mani Mimi Yung, 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 Om Mani Mimi Yung. Om Mani Mimi Yung, 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 Om Mani Mimi Yung. Om Mani Mimi Yung, 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 Om Mani Mimi Yung. Let us bring whatever we spontaneously notice into the path of awareness and release. Let us bring the four bases of mindfulness into wisdom's figurative practice of the rainbow body. All visible circumstances or thoughts could be as impermanent and interdependent as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this body or form. This is highly figurative, for all animals on this planet have evolved to think symbolically. Therefore, the cunning use of figurative language can go a long way to visceral transformation. We use the verb melt as a metaphor of impermanence. We use the verb absorb as a metaphor of interdependence. We use the soft phrase could be as a replacement for the hard verb is. We're trying to be gentle here. And so we're going to take all these syllables and condense them down into just 6 syllables that we're going to divide between our inhalation and our exhalation. All sensual bodies or forms could be as impermanent and interdependent as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this communicational speech. All resounding interpersonal speech could be as impermanent and interdependent as if it could blissfully melt into rainbow like it that could delightfully absorb into this mind. All lucid minds could be as impermanent and interdependent as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into our vast empty void. Like the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although tantalizing to the eye, could be not graspable to the hand. So, when we say clear, we're referring to perception. Mind can clearly perceive, emote, intend, reason, recall, and imagine. Again, let us bring what ever we spontaneously notice into the path of awareness and release. Welcome to this evening's live stream. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist chanting, Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or their application, please type your question in great detail in the chat window. In our compassion, oopsie. In our compassion way, we long to free all beings from the toxic tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging, metaphorically known as the three mental poisons. In our pragmatism, may our liberation of all others be fueled by our reliance on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students, described by the metaphor of the three wish-fulfilling jewels. Having sat for the better part of 75 minutes, you might find it refreshing to knock out a few Tibetan-style Buddha bows. This is completely optional. May we free all through the three jewels. 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 3 jewels. May we free all through the 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 3 jewels. Let us seal this practice by chanting love and letting go's wishes for universal enlightenment and well-being. May all minds of all beings be lucid, yet void no be as enlightened as a Buddha's mind symbolized by all one's audible vision. May all speech of all beings resounding, yet void no be as loving as a Buddha's speech symbolized by all multi-syllable mantra. May all forms of all beings sensual, yet void no be as healthy as a Yadama type depicted in Buddhist statuary. May all lots of all beings appearing, yet void no be as fortunate as a pure land of law represented in Buddhist paintings. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 10 hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's early meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.